Hey, Fitheads. Today we talk with Andy Chan, a certified strength and conditioning specialist. Has a master's degree in exercise science, and he lives in Hong Kong, but lived in the US for 10 years and then went back. So he's got a mixture of whatever functional meathead fitness that I'm into.
Right. That we know and love.
And potentially you are too, Fithead. Mixed with traditional Chinese medicine. And he wrote a book that helps people like us understand traditional Chinese medicine in a meathead way, which is cool.
Yeah, it was very sort of meathead respectful, which yes. I was like, wow, that was polite and loving and touching of you. I didn't expect that, frankly. But yeah, it was fun because he really sort of combines two of like the best ways of looking at working out, looking at fitness, looking at health as a whole, and how everything's sort of interconnected. That was probably my favorite part: diet, emotions, training. I thought that was such a cool way of connecting everything, and they shouldn't be separate. And in fact, one can influence the other, and one should influence the other. You know, you can work out to get some stress levels out, or you sometimes shouldn't eat your feelings away. But either way, you should be aware of what's happening. I thought that was a really sort of awesome, mind-boggling part of it.
Yeah. It made me feel like I'm holding back my own progress, and I need to take a look at holistically what I'm doing versus just keeping lifting in the gym nonstop.
Welcome to Total Fitheads.
Serious fitness for not so serious people. Welcome, Andy. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited for this conversation.
Yes, me too. I have a million things I want to learn about traditional Chinese medicine. But actually, first, can you give us a background on you and, how you got to be where you are?
Yeah. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Andy Chan. Hello, all the way from Hong Kong. The way that I'll describe what I do to people is nowadays, if you go online, there's so much information on health and fitness. And so my job really as a personal trainer, as a coach, as an author, as a presenter now is to help others connect the dots because there's so many isolated information out there. And so what I do, my personal training and my now corporate health talks and all these books that I've been doing is to unpack all this information so that people can connect the dots and really figure out what's best for them in their health and fitness journey.
Yeah, there's a lot out there, and a lot of it feels like lies or perhaps information that for someone that is not me, or just straight up made up things that are exactly wrong on TikTok.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, sometimes you go and you get a headache. You're like, wait, really? They're making all these exaggerated claims. Is it really true? And unfortunately, people are listening to all these so-called experts. So I think, if we all can play our part in finding out the true information, then people can actually make some decisions that will actually be beneficial to their health and performance.
Yeah. Instead of being extreme, be more balanced. Isn't that? Oh, no, wait. Your thing is harmony, not balance, right?
Well, I think both is fine. Thanks for touching on that. So, as some of you, if you're on audio, you'll see my background. There's this little title that says dynamic balance, and I suppose in life, a lot of things it's all about balance, having the right amount, and that's what we should strive to do.
Yeah, the right amount of beers and water at the same time.
You're absolutely right. If you're 21, then by all means, right?
But if you're 22, don't. Just stop after you turn 21. That's enough drinking.
22, you can do it. 25, you should retire from the bar, from the alcohol scene.
Can you give us a couple examples of the craziest things that you've seen people preach on Instagram or on social media that are just like, and then you look at it and you're like, what? Or have you come across anything like that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I mean, sometimes it's not even the TikTok and Instagram. So a little bit more about my background. I was born in Hong Kong, and then I was in the US for 10 years, and then I came back to Hong Kong. So hopefully, so as you can see, I'll have a bit of both in my thinking and my understanding of the world. And sometimes if you come back to Hong Kong, right? So back to just a little bit of Chinese medicine. I mean, you hear all these exaggerated claims about eating certain exotic animals, about, just the effects of certain weird foods that you never imagine. I mean, they'll seriously eat anything they find on the street. It seems like. And so I think this is more frightening because, sometimes if it's just on TikTok, then okay, fine, whatever they do, I can just shut it off. But if people around me and if people around me or the relatives I know are telling me that they're eating monkey heads, then there is a big problem. Because it just tells me that they're misinformed. And of course, they'd be like, oh, it's disgusting. And then I was like, so why are you eating it? They're like, oh, it's good for me. I said, says who? They're like, oh, says my friend. And who's your friend? Oh, he knows a lot. And I think it's I'm not even kidding you. I mean, some of them will eat like a monkey head. And yeah, I think things like that. I mean, hopefully by you listening to it, you'll be like, whoa, who are we talking to today? But this is exactly what I'm here to talk about.
Usually the guy who tells you is the guy selling the monkey heads.
well, in I think even in mainland China, it will be pretty hard to get a monkey head. And so even if he's selling, he's doing it under the table, because I think society as a whole is improving, and people would know that it just doesn't make sense to eat something like that,
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
It's interesting.
Can you fill us in more how traditional Chinese medicine differs from, what we've dealt with growing up with Western only?
Sure. I would say, if we continue building on what we have just said, then one of the biggest misconceptions is that you have to eat all these exotic foods, because, Chinese medicine, the original premise, it makes a lot of logical sense in that what they were saying is you should eat according to what's around you. So an example being, for my honeymoon 2 years ago, I was in Scandinavia. Yeah, exactly. McDonald's is the only thing around me. I should do it. But of course, we're talking to what's natural here, right? If you live in a super cold climate, what you have for your diet will be super different to what I have here in Hong Kong, because it never snows. And that's the premise of it. And, they would always say that you should live in harmony with the environment, which means that you never eat all these exotic foods anyways. So for those who are claiming that exotic foods are good for you, the audience must know that it's more of a show off thing for people with too much money, and they don't really know what to do, and they just want to show off as being brave and what have you. And it's not really the message of Chinese medicine that they should eat all these wild foods. So I think that's probably the biggest misconception and one of the biggest arguments against Chinese medicine.
Okay. So you've taken the good parts of Chinese medicine to try and integrate that and actually make change for people.
Well, I think, like you guys on a podcast, you guys like to explore different topics. And for a while, in terms of my career, I thought about what I could do for the industry, and what can I do really to contribute, because I don't want to be just one of the normal trainers who are just showing off, posting a lot of videos a day, but not really contributing because they're just copying off someone else. And the idea really came about when I was in my master's for exercise science, right? So in my master's degree, I had a semester where we had to do a research course. So it was a course where we did statistics to better understand ways to interpret research. Mm-hmm. And in one of the homework, we get to research on whatever topic we want. So that the assignment was there to teach us how to look into the evidence. And for me, I was intrigued by cupping marks because in the 2016 Olympics, Michael Phelps was seen with the purple dots on his back. And then, the fitness industry went crazy because they're like, what is this? Is this bad for you? Is this helpful? What's the purple dots? Is it killing me? And purple dots. Yeah. And so I figured I'll go into the research and just learn more about it. And that sparked the idea of writing the book, because I then realized that there isn't a book for athletes that unpacks the essential knowledge of Chinese medicine. So if you don't have the essential knowledge of Chinese medicine, how can you understand cupping? Because, when the Chinese medicine practitioners explain cupping, they use TCM terms, but we're not familiar with the TCM terms. So instead of understanding it, what most of us do is that we just kind of push it away because we don't know. And so that's how the book came about, because I wanted to unpack it. So I collaborated with a physician with a PhD in Chinese medicine to write Dynamic Balance, just to unpack so that people will have a basic understanding before using all of these TCM inspired modalities.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. That it was really popular. I mean, so was Michael Phelps. So of course they were like, what is going on? What are some other techniques besides cupping that are a part of what you were training and showing in the book?
Yeah, well, in the book and in my talk nowadays, I usually go into the interconnectedness between our diet, emotions, and training. Just because I think those three aspects of lifestyle are intricately linked. And unfortunately, the picture I paint all the time is nowadays, as a fitness enthusiast, we do understand that kind of working out, dieting, and managing our emotions, we do understand that they are important on its own. But we don't really draw the connection between the three, right? We might go to a meditation class, and then we might go to a dietitian, and then we have a personal trainer. But there isn't really a place for most people that they can go and make the connection where, oh, actually, my emotions affect what I eat, because when I'm stressed and pissed off, I just don't digest, right? And when I eat, if I'm imbalanced, if I just drink beer all the time, then I'm going to be bloated. Whereas I could drink beer once in a while and have fun in life. And so that's what I'm trying to do in sharing the message through both the Eastern and the Western way of thinking, so that they can make the connection in that, oh, actually, not only should I care about what I do in working out, but I should look at how I'm eating as well as how I'm managing my emotions, because that's key.
Yeah, you don't see a CrossFit coach asking how things are going at work while you're snatching.
Yeah, exactly. But what a CrossFit coach should do is, what are you doing outside of work so that you can snatch better inside the workout? And I think if we can do a better job asking those questions, then we can actually, encourage some lifestyle changes. Because instead of just telling them what they should do inside the gym, they should know that what's outside the gym that matters.
That's funny, because I think for a lot of people, training is like an escape or a therapy light, or a poor replacement for therapy or something like that. Whereas they use their time working out to figure something out in their mind, or to avoid a problem in general, or to blow off
wall ball my feelings.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's pretty. So how do you train people to get more interconnected?
Yep, I think a lot of it is through educating throughout the session, right? So first of all, on the topic of working out, what I usually do is I don't really do the isolated muscle training like most trainers would do, right? So you do, in CrossFit, you do total body workouts, meaning most of the movements, wall ball, for example, that we just said, you train the entire body, because you first generate power through your legs and then transfer power through your core, and then use your arms to finish it off. If you just use your arms, then the movement will be inefficient. And so these type of movements are quite good, because they teach the body that you must move as an interconnected whole. Mm-hmm. Now you bring that concept into the body. Well, actually, the body is an interconnected whole, unlike before, where people thought that you should train the body in isolation. Right? I have a back day, I have a chest day, I have a leg day. So you first need to, bicep day. And that's all there is. And so first they've got to have that light bulb moment and thinking, oh, actually, when I move the entire body, and therefore different parts of the body are connected. And then just wait for them to ask, oh, so what can I do outside the gym? Or, oh, if I'm having too much alcohol outside the gym, what should I do? And things like that, then you have a natural conversation where you would get to educate the client, instead of just saying, first session, hey, you should know that everything's interconnected. I'm going to look at your diet plans. Are you eating out today? Have you had McDonald's? All these checklist items.
How's your breakup? Yeah, totally. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in Diet Balance, Stella, my co-author, shared about a breakup story of her client, and how, that impacted her emotions, and she used working out as an escape because she was super depressed. And she went from not having a great physique to having a six-pack, and yet her digestion was impacted because the area around the gut was so tight. And in Chinese medicine, we never want the gut or the stomach area to be impacted, because that your digestion it's kind of the tree of your health, or the root of the tree of your health. So then if that part of the area is too tight, then it's actually not a beneficial thing in terms of circulation and immunity.
She had too much abs. Her revenge body was too hot.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, everyone, please take note.
Wow.
Well, but I think I in the cities, I think a lot of times we'll find people like that because to them it's just go hard. But so we're talking the sense that she's always training, but there's never any cool down, no recovery, no nothing that calms the body down. So it's not necessary the fact that you're going after it every day, which we should. I mean, you want to have a killer workout, but it's the fact that there's no in between and there's no downtime because you want to fill yourself up with just stimuluses so that you don't feel the sadness, right? I think that's kind of the root problem there.
Do you find it's common? Do you find it's common that people overtrain versus, not putting enough in?
I do, because I mean, all you have to ask sometimes is how many coffees have you had today? And a lot of fitness enthusiasts will tell you, I listened to, Kelly Starrett, famous physical therapist. I once listened to his interview and he said in his 30s and early on in his career, he had 14 coffees throughout the day. And just by asking how many coffees the person is drinking, you know that the person is overworking, because what does coffee do? It wakes us up. Everyone knows. I mean, you get a coffee, you get caffeine whenever you feel like, I'm just tired, but I want to shut off my receptors. And so what I'll find is generally the people I work with, they will have 4 coffees, 5 coffees a day. And that's usually a sign that, well, I think you're going too hard, because it's kind of this vicious cycle. You'll be tired, so you shut off the receptors, you'll be more tired, and then you get more coffee. And so, yes, in short answer, I do find that most people, especially in the beginning of the fitness journey, they tend to go too hard.
Interesting. And so then do you have these wow moments where that people realize that they've been holding themselves back from progress by going too hard? Do you have those times either with training or when you're giving talks?
Sure. First of all, people always welcome me when I tell them that they need to rest more, right? Because I think usually I come in and they expect me to say, guys, suck it up and just run the 10K every day. But I think when I tell them that actually it's the recovery that matters, right? The example that I give them is, let's say today, if you're working on a difficult project, the light bulb moment usually comes in when you're daydreaming, or the light bulb moment would usually come in when you're taking a shower, right? When we're taking a shower, you realize a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts come to you, which tells us that whenever you're in a rush, great ideas don't actually come. And it is in the state of recovery, or whenever we're not as stressed and stimulated, that good ideas come. And usually people will understand that intuitively. And I tell them that if you've worked out hard without kind of the boring, the tired, sluggish days where your body just recovers itself, you're actually not going to become stronger and fitter.
Can you talk about active, or what type of things are we doing for recovery? Am I just nothing? Am I breathing exercises?
Cupping?
How much am I cupping? How many
Yeah,
cups?
yeah. How many cups? Yeah, exactly. The more the better. No, just kidding. First of all, I think recovery should be incorporated into our daily routine. By daily routine, I mean throughout the day, right? Because I think in recent years, the fitness industry will go to meditation class, we'll go to yoga classes, we'll go to stretching classes once, twice, 3 times a week, which is great because we're at least beginning to put an emphasis on those. But for me, breathing practices should be done whenever there are gaps throughout the day. So I'll give you an example. I usually have 8 sessions a day, my typical day. And I'd usually incorporate my breathing practices in between my sessions, or when I'm walking from place to place. And even after this podcast, right? We know that whenever we're in a podcast, I'm kind of in a stress state because there's back and forth. You guys are thinking, I'm thinking what to say. And so after the call, when I'm walking, I'll be there doing some breathing exercises just to calm the body down before my next session again, where I have to be energetic and to think a lot again. And the way I'll do that is to ensure that we take deep breaths through the nose all the way to the diaphragm, which is something that most of us will be familiar with. But my point being that the simplest recovery strategies does not have to be complicated, and you could do it anywhere, anytime. And after that, you look into your diet, right? If we look into the TCM perspective, back to the original, what I said in the beginning of the call is that we have to eat according to what's around us. And to take that one step further, we have to eat what's in season in TCM, because what's in season is likely to be good for you. Because if the food cannot grow in season, then what that's saying is that climate is not suitable for the fruit or the food you're eating. So then in terms of diet, then I'll just make sure that we're eating what's in season, what's fresh. And then we'll go to cupping and all these other passive strategies, because you don't move when someone's doing cupping or acupuncture on you. So to me, they're more passive, where you lay down and relax. And usually we'll do that last, because that's not so active.
Interesting. So then you're a fan of eating locally, like not having food shipped in from wherever, even though mangoes right now might be growing healthy somewhere else. That's not the way you should be eating.
Yep. Although I would say I try my best to do that, because I don't want to be one of those people who just stresses on this so much that becomes a pain in the butt. Because we all have some of those friends. No offense to you, because you're doing a good job sticking to what you believe in. But I don't want to be I don't want to be so caught up, because then that itself becomes stress. Because sometimes people take it a bit too far in, I have to get a certain number of calories in. So therefore, if I'm missing out on 10 calories, I'm going to be super mad. And I don't want to be one of those, right? So I in general, I'll try to go to my local farmer markets and just to see what's there, buy organic. But if I'm really craving mango today, I'll go have it. I mean, I don't really stop myself from having fun in life.
Interesting. Yeah, that ties into the mental stress part of it, where I can certainly see myself going to extremes for the nutrition and training, and then sending the other stuff off balance.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, especially in this fitness world, it all comes back to there's just so much information. So if we can just sometimes take a step back, relax, just enjoy the process. Because after all, I think working out is quite fun if you find the right classes and right trainer. And then eating could be fun, because once you have fresh food and the foods are nicely cooked, they're not as bad. I mean, if you talk about vegetables, for example, in Hong Kong, we cooked our vegetables. So we usually, when I come back to Hong Kong, they'll make fun of the Americans and the Westerners, because they're like, what are you doing? Just eating grass, right? Essentially a salad. You're not really cooking it. So you're just eating just plant. But here you season it, you cook it, and it's fresh. So you get different tastes. And I always encourage people to, you can also make food more interesting by adding taste. And when they're fresh and when you actually find a good chef, then they'll be enjoyable, and you're likely to eat healthy, and it'll be good for you.
Okay, so it sounds like, based on you were talking about movement in the whole body, you're anti-bodybuilding. We're not going to split up the workouts into push and pull or chest and back.
Well, I am, if that is the goal, because at the end of the day, we are a service industry. So, well, of course, my own philosophy is that perhaps if they ask me what should I do, then bodybuilding would not be the first type of workout I recommend, unless if they're severely weak in their back, which most would be. But, some days you would have, like last week, they came in there and there's this new client who didn't know who I am, and they didn't know about the work I do. And so they're like, we want to work out. So I just normally assume they know that I'm into total body workout with all the different things I've been doing lately in the past 2 years. So we started with our kind of functional stuff. And he was like, what is this? This is not working out. Because, he says, and then he's like, no, this is, we have to do chest day. We have to do a back. And then, every exercise, after every exercise, like the wall ball, he'll be like, what type of muscles are we working? And I'll be like, well, everywhere. Oh, and he'll be like, what do you mean everywhere? We should only work our chest or back and stuff. So we still don't get those questions from time to time. But yes, to your point, I would prefer total body workout over isolated muscle training.
How intense are we talking? Is this
and how often?
Metcon? Is it every day? Is it?
Yep, I think every day possible. But what I'm really looking for before we amp up the intensity is whether they can move with some elegance, I guess, is the word I used to say, or I usually say. So if you look at, elite athletes like LeBron James, or if you look at Roger Federer or Tiger Woods, right? When they're swinging the golf club, when they're shooting basketball, when they're dunking, it just seems so effortless. And yet, if you go into the gym, people are just so rigid, and that's a problem, because we know that being rigid is not the most efficient way to move. And the best athletes are the ones who can move smoothly and who can move with agility and coordination. So usually that would be the emphasis of our workouts first. Can you move with some grace? I mean, stop moving like a robot, and can you move like you should as a human being? And after that, of course, you talk intensity, metcons, and usually we do some type of circuits in our workouts, just to make things more interesting so that we're not so idle.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never think about the fact that a lot of when I'm pushing myself is quite ugly and could be more elegant.
Well, I did a weightlifting course 2 years ago in Shenzhen, China.
Aha!
Yeah,
We got
exactly. So I did a weightlifting course, and it was interesting because if you look at the Chinese, we're Asian, so usually we're not as explosive overall speaking in the athletic world. But yet, if you look at the Chinese weightlifting team, they're breaking all sorts of records, and so they must be doing something right. And so I went, and all of these kids at 13, 14 years old, they're just getting 60, 70 kg up with no problem during snatches. And we do know Olympic weightlifting movements. Sometimes in CrossFit classes, people just throw it up there and hope for the best. Oh, hopefully I catch it, and they shake. But those elite, it's like, and wow, it just looks so nice. And if you're ever in person looking at these weightlifting meets, you look at the best elite weightlifters, you can't help but to say, wow, that's really nice, interconnected, smooth movement. And so what I just try to do is take that into every other movement that we do, because if you do that, then you're being at a great spot.
Yeah, it's a very good coaching point. I think in a lot, like Olympic weightlifting is probably the best example, but it works in everything. But when you're trying to lift something like a clean, for example, and the coach just says, make the bar go faster, don't think about it's so much weight, I got to pull really hard. Same with golf, same with racket sports. A lot of the time you just swing through it. Is it harder for, are there different types of, not to get too political here, but are there different types of groups of people that sort of take to it quicker? Do like kids take to it quicker? Do US people take to it slower? Old people? Is there men, women? Is there some sort of a group like that?
Well, I must be honest, right? So 2 years ago, the people that I predominantly serve are people in their 20s and 30s. So active, maybe young professionals just started working in their career. But over the past 2 years, I started working at a private club. Now, 80% of my clients are between 40 and 70. So that's 80% of my clients are there. And I'd say of that group, 80, 90% are golfers. Now I predominantly train golfers. And at first I thought it was going to be super challenging because of my previous experience. That age group, that demographic, 50 to 70 is kind of the stubborn type, at least the people that I've trained before. And even when they understand you, it takes a while for them to understand. But I now realize that it's actually not the case. They're actually quite coachable because all you have to do is get them on the same page. And then if they don't understand the interconnected part, it's usually because of the drill that you assign them, not necessarily because they don't get it. And I get that because I did a course this beginning with a biomechanics professor from Texas University. His name is Dr. Kwan. And just to go in a little bit about, sports, it's all about weight transfer. So we know all the racket sports, all the golf, when it comes to hitting the ball, it's all about transferring weight from one leg to another in order to hit a home run far with less effort. And what we actually have to do is teach people how to step from left to right with rhythm. And the word he uses is also dancing, because in a way they're also dancing. And so back to the question, I think all demographics are the same. And of course, kids will be easier because, they're like a blank sheet of paper. Yeah. But I would say older people are not as bad as I previously thought they would be, if I'm to be honest with you.
So if you want to be well-adjusted, start dancing.
Start dancing. My kid is 2 years old, and when he turns 5, 6, I'm going to just sign him up for dance classes.
Cha-cha.
Yeah, but like
Cha-cha.
wrestling is just muscle dancing with another dude. I feel like, Max, you've already been doing it.
That's true. So, that's what we called it, muscle dancing.
Is Max a wrestler?
I used to. I wrestled in college, and I always. It's actually a little bit of a pet peeve, or I should say, now that we're all sharing, I was always very confused because I was a very good athlete and I was very coordinated. I could shadow people really well. I could pick up moves very quickly, and I am the worst dancer I've ever seen. So I don't understand what's going on. I could never figure it out.
Have you tried a few beers? Did it help? Or just...
There you go.
Helps my perception. Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes it's just having no shame, on the dance floor. If you have no shame, then you'll be fine.
Dance like Allie is not Snapchatting you.
But she always is.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like a wide range of people can pick up on this kind of thing. Who is the audience for dynamic balance? Is this general population? Is this me who tries too hard? Athletes? What do we got?
I think it's for anyone who would like to know more about TCM in a digestible way. So originally the target audience was athletes, but we changed that a little bit. So I can tell you, even for the editing process, so with our publisher Greenleaf Book Group, so there were in total 4 editors for the project, and all 4 of them had no fitness background. And some might find it funny. Whoa, you're writing a fitness book while you have 4 editors with no previous fitness background. The reason why we did that was because we wanted to make sure that those without a fitness background can understand it just as those with the fitness background. And so this book is for everyone, because nowadays, if you go out on the street, you see a Tai Chi sign at every corner. I mean, you see a dodgy massage store at your local mall. And you hear about all these meridians, all these Chi, blood, yin yang 5 elements. And our book is there to help you understand by drawing connection to the Chinese culture, because these terms came about because of the culture, and then what that actually and practically means in their life when it comes to your diet, emotions, and movement. Because when you can make a better connection for the 3, then you would definitely make a better health informed decision about life.
Tai Chi. So you talk about that too in the book.
Oh, for sure. A little bit Tai Chi. We don't exactly use the word Tai Chi because at the end of the day, they're just movements that induces circulation. But we do talk about the circulation part.
Okay. And also you mentioned acupuncture. Yeah.
Yeah, acupuncture. So by the end of the book, I mean, you would have a good understanding of the basic idea of acupuncture and what it's trying to do. Because before, I mean, if we have time,
can you tell me? Because I have no idea.
Yeah,
it scares the hell out of me.
So before, so let me ask you, Max, what's your current idea on acupuncture?
I've seen it. It scares me. I've never tried it. I have friends and family who've tried it. They love it. That's it.
Okay. And you're scared of it because someone is jabbing 12 needles into the skin.
I'm scared because I don't know what's going on. I feel like it doesn't scare me in a sense of pain, I guess, because I can't believe everyone would have such an unbelievably high pain tolerance. But I don't know what it is, and I have no one's ever like pitched me on it, I guess.
Yeah. So the simple premise is we first have to understand Chi blood, and Chi blood is actually not so hard to understand because in Chinese medicine, every single term has both a functional meaning and a conceptual meaning. So if we take the word Chi, functionally, it just means energy. But it is also a conceptual term because what is Chi? You cannot see it. You cannot touch it. You can ask any practitioner. They'll be like, oh, it doesn't exist in their physical form. And so in reality, this is just describing circulation, Chi and blood together. Mm-hmm. And the second system that we have to understand is the meridian system. So in Chinese medicine, in the doctrines, they have outlined 12 lines. So there are these 12 channels where energy is circulated. And essentially, they're just interconnected lines because you have a line in the arms, you have a line in front of the body, a line in the back of the body. And they believe that these lines, they would transfer energy throughout the body. And so if there's any obstruction in the line, so you can think of it like a highway, right? So the car is just there. But let's say if there's too much traffic, then it's going to impact the time at which you get to your destination. As well as, let's say today, if everyone's speeding, it's going to also make it dangerous because there's just, you get there too fast. And all they're trying to do is, so that they'll take a pulse, or they might do a diagnosis on you to figure out which body parts are the ones that's not flowing as much or not circulating as well. And they want to put a needle in there to stimulate certain acupoints to certain that body parts so that they can induce circulation again. So that's kind of the premise behind acupuncture. They want to stimulate certain points to improve your circulation and maybe mood.
Do you do it? Do you like it?
I do it. It's sometimes frightening, especially on certain body parts. I mean, I can't tell you. It's because sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, we're gonna do acupuncture on the gut."
I won.
And yeah. Actually, down further down, please. So yeah, I mean, like arms and legs and like head, I'm fine with it. And in fact, every time they do it on my head, I actually feel a lot better because I'm a thinker. I like to think, and so sometimes if they just do stuff on the head, it somehow relaxes the head. But it's kind of the gut. Because remember, I said the gut is kind of the foundation to health in Chinese medicine. So whenever let's say today, if you go on a bulking diet or bulking phase, as we all do in fitness, then it's quite taxing for the stomach, of course, because you're eating more than you would normally. And so sometimes I'll go for like an adjustment and then they would do some stuff to the gut. But that's super frightening because you're there with the shirt off. And they're like, okay, I'm going to put 5 needles. I'm going to jab it in the gut. and I think that I intuitively, I flex everything. And but they're like, oh, that's a nice 6-pack. No, that's not what they say. They tell me to relax.
Sure.
Yeah, they tell me to relax and they put it in. So
I just do that in when I get coffee. I just flex, and they're like, "Oh wow, what a great physique you have." I'm like, "Hey, exactly. Listen, I'm just here for the coffee.
You can give me a discount if you want. You can give me a discount." But I'll say that the problem with Chinese medicine is even in Hong Kong, I mean, there's a wide range. There's a spectrum when it comes to quality of service provider. So, in my lifetime, I've done acupuncture with at least 30, 40 people. And of those 30, 40, you've only got a small pool who's good. It's very similar to being a fitness instructor. I mean, I'm sure you guys know you'll get 10 off the street, perhaps, not the number of actually competent, good, responsible instructors are not that many.
Interesting. Yeah, because when I think of cupping, it feels like working out. You have to keep doing it to see the benefits. Is it like that with acupuncture, or where you see a transformation one time and you're sort of fixed for whatever that was, and it's not about compounding going often?
I've been told both. I mean, it's one of those things that if they can pinpoint exactly what's going on, then of course you have one session where you see dramatic improvements. But if something is chronic, then perhaps it takes a while to figure out. Because like my case, I mean, I guess we're into really deep personal stuff now, but I used to struggle with anxiety disorder for 10 years of my life. And then I had to take pills and sleeping pills and all that. I don't do that now. I mean, I'm all fixed up and I'm living a healthy life doing what I love. But then the Chinese medicine practitioner will say that because I was on medication for so many years, my circulation will be impacted by all these chemicals, which I guess they have a point, right? If you have medication for 10 years, it's definitely going to change something. And so the acupuncture treatments would take a bit longer because you're using something that's natural to fight off something that's unnatural, which logically it's going to take longer to kind of fence it off and to reorganize and to recalibrate. And so to that point, I would say, overall, from what I've heard, usually things takes quite a while, unless if they can pinpoint what's exactly the cause of things.
Interesting. I mean, good for you for getting fixed. That's insane. It seems like, yeah, that kind of thing would be an ongoing life thing, but for you to pull out of it, that's impressive.
Yeah, I sometimes, would share that after all, it's just figuring out what's important and what are the priorities, and maybe things aren't so bad for people with anxiety. Because I'm not sure you guys know, but I'm sure you guys can relate. When you get anxious, you tend to just worry about everything, and so in especially because we know that stress and diets are linked. So a lot of times my diet would just be either really good or really bad, depending on kind of the season that I'm in. And so by kind of addressing both at the same time and doing the right amounts of workouts by not pushing myself too hard, then it just naturally helped. Because those who are anxious, we do know that they're prone to inflammation as well, just because, again, it's the interconnectedness of sleep, not enough sleep, more fight or flight, or more sympathetic response, more inflammation, and then lack of sleep because you're so inflamed. And so to anyone who's listening, if you're struggling with, let's say, anxiety or just sluggishness, then you should definitely know that at some point, you just need to take a step back and realize that, hey, perhaps world is not so bad, and just take it easy. Just be like Max and Ali and just take a more laid back approach to life,
Sleep all the time.
Yeah, sleep all the time. Have a beer once in a while. Seriously, it's not that bad. I mean, because some fitness. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's also interesting to notice that was a big change for me, is like noticing when I'm doing something because I'm stressed out. And sometimes in my life it has been working out, and sometimes in my life it has been eating terrible, or partying, or reading, or escaping, or whatever. And I think that was a shift for me when I started noticing, why am I doing this? Oh, it's not because I'm actually hungry for chocolate. I just want to feel not this feeling. That was a big turn for me. Do you find that with other people?
Sure. I once read a book. It's called Second Brain. It's on gut health. I forgot the name of the author. And what she recommended was, well, number one, whenever you're stressed, don't eat. And because there's so many microbiomes within our gut, whenever you're stressed, whatever you eat in, it's just not going to be absorbed. And I certainly find that when people are stressed, but I must say, working out, after all, it's a good way to release some adrenaline and to release stress. But I think what's over the top is when people get pissed off about not meeting their workout objective for the day. Because there are some of us who just go work out and just wants a good sweat, going to CrossFit class, going to circuit training class, all good. But there are those of us who records the reps and the number of weights that we lift, right? Yeah. And then sometimes when we're stressed, my God, I did not hit the repetition or the weight that I want today. Ali, you sound like one of those. Maybe.
What? No, of course not. I'm definitely well balanced and never trying to beat myself the next day.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's those that would kind of be prone to more stress from something that should help you release stress.
Yeah. Makes sense. Only because we touched on this a little bit. Do you have any tips or tricks for finding a good practitioner? It's hard to find a good trainer, right? How do you know you're getting good acupuncture or cupping?
Yeah, I like to, first of all, I would recommend that you ask them questions, because they have to understand. If they cannot understand the fact that you don't know anything about Chinese medicine, and if they're impatient about explaining to you what Chinese medicine is, then it tells you something, right?
Right.
Yeah, they just want you to pay.
Exactly. Hey, pay first. I know I explained to you. And two, can they actually explain to you what it is? Because that tells you they know what they're doing, right? If they just say, oh, do it because this feels good, or do it because I've helped many others, then I would say maybe they don't really know. So I would say, first of all, ask them, are they willing to explain to you? And second, can they actually help you, right? After first session, if they're having you doing weird stuff, if the acupuncture that you receive, if it feels super weird, then perhaps they've also got the wrong spot as well. Because if something just feels odd, then it's your body telling you, wait, there really shouldn't be a needle there, right? And so just trust your trust your instincts and communicate more. And generally, the more you speak to a person, the more you know whether that person is there for your good or for his or her own good. And if they're in the medical field, if they're there as a trainer, then you should be the emphasis. And so I would encourage you all to just not be shy and just ask more questions.
Love that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. That's all great. But earlier you said you had an 8-pack. So let's talk about, how do I get an 8-pack?
Cupping.
Yeah, 8-pack. Everyone love it. Yeah, cupping, acupuncture. Well, I think it's the diet, right? Because it's the diet and the exercise, and that the exercise, we wanted to boost the immunity, the metabolism of the body, because you'll find that generally here in Asia, you're going to find more people with 6-pack just because they're skinnier. Well, why are they skinnier? Because they have a faster metabolism overall, especially because people walk more here, they exercise more, right? In the US, because it's so big, I mean, I understand you would drive everywhere. I mean, when I was there in college, I literally just drive from my home to the gym and then start working out and drive back to my home to watch movies. And so there's no activity there. And if they can get used to moving, then I think that would be a good starting point, because I think we're just too sedentary. And if we only move for one intense hour during the day, to me, that's just not enough. So I think the first tip, if you want a 6-pack, is to get some movement throughout the day so that we get the overall metabolism. We can increase the metabolism first. And after that, it's always the big exercises, right? The deadlifts and the squats that we should do, instead of just 1,000 crunches that people think will get you the abs.
Speaking my language.
Lately, I've heard a lot about people preaching how great low intensity, steady state cardio. I don't believe it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What are the benefits? Are they overhyping this? Is this just the newest odd backwards fad, or am I totally off base?
Well, I think to understand whether that's good or not, we have to understand what low intensity steady state cardio is. Well, first of all, steady state cardio is when we're describing how the heart rate is steady, right? When you think of interval training, the heart rate is going up and down, and in steady state, the heart rate is somewhat steady, either flat or increasing. And usually steady state low intensity cardio is done at about 75% or lower of your heart rate max. And the reason why they do it is because if we understand different energy systems within the body, different duration of an exercise would determine where the fuel source comes from. And we do know that if it's something that's like 10, 20 seconds, then ATP, PC. And then if it's 30 seconds, there's more glycogen, more carbs in it. And then after 3 minutes, fats starts to be used as the main fuel source. So I would say low intensity, steady state cardio proponents of this type of training would say that you're using fat as your main energy fuel source. And of course, using fat as your fuel source would be pleasing to the ear for many people. And so I think logically it makes sense. And I don't have a particular opinion on steady state low intensity cardio, but I do think that the idea is good if we can potentially involve more fat. But again, I think we have been doing this. So it's something that we've been doing, because if we walk 10,000 steps a day, then that's low intensity, steady state cardio. Mm-hmm. So it's just a very fancy name for what we have been doing for 10,000 years, essentially.
I feel like I see it all the time lately. And again, maybe it's just my TikTok algorithm is messing with me, because it's a lot of bodybuilders and they're like, ooh, this is the secret nobody knows. Walking.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, dude, we all know walking. That's how you. Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's like, this is the secret. You should sleep every night.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a good secret.
Yeah, just because. So I think. Secret. I mean, it's like the fitness industry is constantly coming up with all these jargony terms, right? They say something like low intensity, steady state cardio, and I'll just tell everyone to watch out for those, because those who uses these terms are, no offense, but idiots, because they're there to make themselves look smart without actually understanding what it entails.
Love it. What a great way to end. Using smart words makes you an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. I've realized sometimes in these podcasts, You piss off a few people, but hopefully they understand that we're just being honest and transparent here.
That's how you make a cult. You say what you aren't.
Yeah, exactly. And the next part is just say some BS, but I won't do that because that's unethical.
No, but for real, this has been great. It's been cool to hear your insights about this, and I'm definitely. Where can I get the book? Where can the Fitheads go read more about this?
Yep. So Dynamic Balance is available everywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, I think even Target, Target.com.
Oh, wow. You're in brick and mortar, as they say.
Yeah, I think we'll have to check. We'll see. But it should be available everywhere. And please check it out and leave a review after you've read it. And they can always reach out to me if you have any questions or thoughts as well.
Sweet. Yes. How do they reach you?
Oh, yes. Wow. I should have continued. And my just Instagram. Yeah, exactly. Send me a mail, physical mail. No, you can find me on Instagram at Chiu Andy. So Chiu, TSZCHIU Andy. And you can, my website is TSZCHIU, my Chinese name, chichu.com. You can find more about what I do there. And yeah, as I said, please reach out. I mean, whenever you give me a feedback, I promise I won't take it personally because you're actually doing good for me. You're doing me a favor by letting me know how I can improve as a speaker, as an author, as an instructor. Mm-hmm. So I welcome all feedback and I look forward to connecting with some of you.
Love it. Next episode, I'm just going to be covered in purple dots. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Please tag me when you do it. But I'll be like, I don't know you.
You're this dot, right? You don't know me.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what's good is, these days they're rock pods or they're these silicone cups that you can just use on your own. So you don't necessarily have to go into a clinic to go for the full treatment. Like Rock Tape has it, for example.
I know. I have a Robo one. You just push a button and it sucks. It sounds weird, and it is. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it all over social media. I've never tried. I wonder how the experience is like,
Yeah, it's odd. But also, I've never had traditional cupping, so I don't know what to compare it to.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I should do it next week.
All right, I'm in. Okay, well, thank you again. It's been great chatting.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And thank you to the Fitheads. If you can rate and review on Apple Podcasts, that helps us out a whole lot. And we'll see you next week.